Can Dennis Smith Jr. still live up to his draft day expectations? Let's get into this.
Dosage. Oh yeah, I work with the medics. I'm about to get you injected. I got a couple connections so I can get you prosthetic. Okay.
Quickly before we get the video started, if you guys enjoy this video and want to see more NBA content just like this one, hit that subscribe button and that post notification bell. Anyways, back to the video. DSJ was drafted with the number 9 overall selection in the 2017 NBA draft by the Dallas Mavericks. Coming out of college and going into the NBA, there was a ton of different expectations and excitement around DSJ's name. What DSJ was able to prove in college was he was a very good offensive player, extremely athletic, can obviously get posterizing dunks, was extremely quick as well, get a rebound on the defensive side, quickly push the ball up the court, get a dunk or layup for himself, or find a teammate for a wide open dunk or layup. And overall, on the offensive side, DSJ was seen as a very good player. Of course, there were some things that DSJ wasn't great at, even in college going into the NBA, but a lot of the things that he struggled in specific his jump shooting, a lot of people thought he could fix that once he got to the NBA and maybe just practice a little bit more and continuously worked hard within his game. There's a ton of different players, specifically point guards, that come into the NBA with a similar build and skill set that DSJ had, where they would come into the NBA not a great shooter, and then over time they would continuously improve upon that and eventually get to a point where they're a decent shooter and a consistent one. A perfect example of this is John Wall. Originally, when John Wall came into the NBA, he was a super athletic guy, fantastic at getting all the way to the basket and dunking over people or finishing around people once he got to the basket, but the issue with his game is he did not have a mid-range jump shot or a three-point jump shot whatsoever within his game, but obviously as he played more and more, he eventually developed that mid-range jump shot that became pretty consistent for him. At this point, it's very consistent, and even now he's starting to work on, and he has been working on, his three-point jump shot, and currently I would say he's a decent three-point shooter, when early on in his career he didn't have a jump shot whatsoever. So that was definitely the hope and expectations for DSJ going into the NBA. And in DSJ's rookie season, he showed a lot of promise, averaging 15 points per game on 40% shooting from the field, 4 rebounds per game, also adding 5.2 assists within his game. In his rookie season, he was basically showing off what he was doing in college, just a fantastic athlete, getting to the basket, just dunking over people, finishing around people with crafty layups, either left or right hand, had a decent floater within his game, had the ability to shoot mid-range and three-point jump shots. He wasn't necessarily good at either one of those in his rookie season, but he proved the ability to do so, and that's something good to build upon going forward. Also, in terms of his passing and playmaking ability, he was never seen as a fantastic passer or playmaker, but in the NBA, he was definitely seen as a serviceable passer and playmaker in his rookie season, averaging over 5 assists per game, which is pretty good for a mostly scoring guard. And overall, DSJ's rookie season was certainly a successful one, and there was a ton of excitement to see what he can do going forward in the NBA. Now, actually, in DSJ's second season in the 2018 NBA season, the Mavericks in that year's draft actually went ahead and drafted Luka Doncic. Now, a lot of people thought as soon as the Mavericks did draft Luka, it was going to be the end to DSJ, because a lot of people thought Luka would be better than him and he would take the reins of the offense, and DSJ was kind of useless if he wasn't having the ball in his hands most of the time. Or at the same time, some other people thought maybe it would be a competition to see which one of these guys would be better going forward, and whoever was a better one, the Mavericks could just have the ability to trade the other player away to another team and get some assets to help the player that's better between the two in return. But in reality, when the Mavericks actually went ahead and drafted Luka, they actually wanted DSJ and Luka to play together. They thought they couldn't pass up on a guy like Luka. They thought he was just way too talented, but at the same time, they didn't draft Luka to replace DSJ. They wanted both of those guys to play together and to form an incredibly talented backcourt going forward, and the backcourt of the future for the Mavericks. But it was pretty clear very early on that Luka not only was far better than Dennis Smith, but also he was clearly a superstar talent, and the two guys, DSJ and Luka, were just not working out together. Luka needed the ball in his hands, and so did DSJ, but obviously Luka's a lot better than DSJ, and you're always going to pick Luka. So Luka really had the ball in his hands most of the time, and DSJ's game was clearly struggling. Basically, his numbers across the board dropped down. And the Mavericks realized pretty early on that it wasn't working out between the two guys, DSJ and Luka, so they decided to trade DSJ at the trade deadline to the New York Knicks in return for Kristaps Porzingis. Now, that was really the start of the end for DSJ. Once the Mavericks really drafted Luka and he kind of overtook DSJ DSJ's spot in the roster, I feel like DSJ's confidence completely went out the window and his career just went downhill from there. In his first season with the Knicks, he definitely played pretty well, averaging 15 points per game on 41% shooting from the field, 2.8 rebounds per game, also adding almost 6 assists per game, which is certainly pretty good numbers. But after that pretty good first season with the Knicks, everything completely went downhill from there. In the 2019 NBA season, DSJ only averaged 5.5 points per game, a terrible 34% shooting from the field, 2.3 rebounds per game, also adding 3 assists to his game. And the season after that, in the 2020 NBA season, he didn't even play, basically only playing 3 games. And then the Knicks actually decided to trade DSJ away to the Detroit Pistons. And for the Pistons, he played a little bit more, he got a lot more minutes, but he only averaged 7 points per game on 41% shooting, 2.6 boards, and 4 assists per game. And after one season with the Pistons, they also dropped him, and things were starting to look pretty bleak for DSJ. Luckily for him, he did get another opportunity, getting picked up by the Portland Trail Blazers, and he's playing a little bit for them, but he's not getting too many minutes, and he's not playing in every single game, and he's kind of just out of the rotation currently, but it is a good sign that he did get another opportunity. And really where everything went wrong for DSJ is back when the Mavericks actually drafted Luka, he completely lost all his confidence and really never recovered. But now let's get into the question of the video, which is, could Dennis Smith ever live up to the expectations that he had coming into the NBA? Now, of course, the first step for DSJ would be to actually consistently get on the court for the Trailblazers, work tremendously hard on his game, try to get his confidence back, become a really good bench player, and then you could eventually think about what you could be after that going forward. But the bright side is DSJ is still extremely young, and based on how high he was drafted in the draft, I think even if the Blazers were to move on from DSJ, I think he would at the very least get one more opportunity. But at the same time, DSJ is running low on his opportunities, and he does need to make the most of this one in Portland. But let's just say for the sake of the video that DSJ turns into a pretty good backup point guard and gains his confidence back, gets some consistency, gets more minutes on the court, and overall just becomes a pretty good bench player. Because I definitely think DSJ obviously has the talent to do so and become that kind of player, especially learning from a guy in Damian Lillard who's one of, if not the best point guards we have in the NBA. But if DSJ does get to that point where he's finally starting to get some confidence back, some more minutes, some consistency, and becomes a pretty good player coming off the bench, do I think that DSJ could potentially live up to those expectations that he was given on draft day, which were a very good starting level point guard, maybe even an all-star or a superstar type player going forward? Obviously, based on how DSJ's career has gone so far, I think it's going to be very difficult for DSJ to ever live up to those expectations. But with that being said, do I think that DSJ could potentially be a good starting level point guard or a decent starting level point guard? I definitely do think so. I think he has the talent and potential to do so, but obviously he's going to have to make a huge adjustment and some changes within his game. Based on how he's going currently, he's going in a direction that he's going to be out of the league within the next 2 or 3 seasons, so of course he does need to change some things up. He has to work harder on his game, work on his jump shooting specifically, his passing ability, his confidence, just get that confidence back. And really how you do that is obviously work very hard during the off seasons, work very hard during practice for the Blazers, show the head coaches some things, try to get some more minutes on the court. When you're actually on the court, try to make everything of it. Take shots when you're open, get all the way to the basket, do what you were drafted for. Show that athleticism off, drive all the way to the basket with some confidence, dunk over people, finish around people with crafty layups, put up those floaters, find your open teammates. Overall, just be a very good teammate and a very good player coming off the bench. And if you're able to do that, I definitely think he has the talent to potentially be a very good level starting point guard, or at the very least a decent level starting point guard. In terms of him becoming an all-star or maybe even a superstar type point guard, in my opinion, although he's very young and anything could happen, I think that ship probably has sailed at this point, and any chance that he had of doing so was kind of taken away from him just due to the fact that he lost so much confidence. But this is definitely a very urgent situation for DSJ, and he really has to start fixing his game now. But we'll see what happens with him going forward. I think it can go in one of 2 ways. Either DSJ is going to be out of the league within the next year or 2, or DSJ is going to really work on his game and become at the very least a really good bench player. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you guys think DSJ could ever live up to those draft day expectations, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe and hit that post notification bell. It really helps me out a lot. Until the next time, peace out, guys.
Oh yeah, I work with the medics. I'm about to get you injected. I got a couple connections so I can get you prosthetics. You can't go where I'm headed.